This girl won't help me. I demand she uses my coupons. I did so much for you. Help out your poor old teacher, or else.
r/entitled parents. Our first story we'll be reading today. My former entitled theater teacher tries to get me to give her a discount because
I taught you so much, so you owe me at least this much.
From user had her hair. After that, entitled father tries to take my drawing tablet because his son is better at art. From user I'm 8 and this is deep. And after that, entitled family tries to steal my cat. From user Roxanne 1930. And then we'll be finishing up with the muffins. From user badbear13. Thank you so much to our authors for letting us read your stories. And if you're an author who would like to hear your stories on the channel, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And welcome to the newest members of the Re-Army, Benson, Chaos, and Blackwing. And if you're new, join the Re-Army by subscribing for new stories from Reddit every single day. My former entitled theater teacher tries to get me to give her a discount because
I taught you so much, so you at least owe me this much.
Hello again. I saw my entitled granny story be told on Mr. Reddit's channel and was super happy, so thanks for the smile. Oh, thanks, Had Her Hair. I'm glad to hear that. I have another story, but this time of a former teacher thinking that she could get a discount from me at a beauty supply store. A little backstory. This teacher, I'll be calling Miss Banks, was my theater and piano teacher from sophomore to senior year of high school. Now, Miss Banks wasn't a nice lady. She was the director of the school's show choir, think Glee but on stage. And if you weren't a part of her group, then you were nothing to her. I wasn't in that group. Because of this, I was placed in ensemble and acted as a stagehand for a lot of our theater productions, even though I heard her speak with the other music teachers about how good of a singer I was. I didn't really care though. I just liked being in plays. She would praise only her show choir students during practice and yell at any other students for
not putting in enough effort into their craft.
The last day I was in her piano class, she refused to let any of her students use the practice room and forced us all to sit in her classroom until the end of class. I sat against a wall that had mirrors against it and played on my Game Boy until I noticed something going off. My rear was very cold. I somehow had found a loose piece of glass on the mirror and ripped a giant hole in my pants. Thankfully, I had a hoodie to wrap around me. I went to Miss Banks and explained what happened, hoping she would at the very least remove the loose glass piece from the mirror, but instead I got this.
You stupid girl! You broke my mirror with your fat butt!
I was a 5'3", 100-pound lanky sack of potatoes. Instead of letting me go to the office to call my dad to bring me a new pair of pants, she made me sit in her room and do nothing. After the class was over, I ran to the bathroom and cried of embarrassment. The year after I graduated, I heard from a friend of mine 2 years behind me that Miss Banks was discovered to have been stealing money from the school fundraisers to help pay for her daughter's pageants. She was quickly fired and wasn't able to find work for years. Now, on to the actual story. Our cast. We've got Miss Banks, our sticky-fingered entitled teacher. Miss Banks' daughter. She seemed like a pretty nice person, actually. My manager, the giggly, upbeat girly. And me, Daria in real life. I was about 22 at this time, and I worked at a beauty supply store. I was a cashier since I hated talking about makeup with the customers. I was wiping down the counters when Miss Bank walked through the doors with her daughter. The moment that I saw her, I knew something was going to go down. Miss Banks looked like she was already on the attack, and her daughter didn't look too happy to be here. My manager was like, "What's up, Had Her Hair?" "You remember Miss Banks?" We both went to the same high school together. "Oh yeah, I did see her by the curling irons. Keep an eye on the security cameras." I nod, and manager begins to patrol around the store. I look at the monitor we had up front and watched as Miss Banks and her daughter looked around. Miss Banks stomping her feet. I would occasionally look at the cameras to make sure they weren't stealing anything while doing my duties and checking out other customers when Miss Banks finally got in line. I couldn't hear what she was grumbling about over the sound of the 2000s pop music coming from the speakers, but the people around her scooted as far from them as they could. When Miss Banks got to the front of the line, her face was bright red.
This store is way too expensive, and there's no parking.
We shared a parking lot with a gym next door. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Do you have a loyalty card?
Yes,
She took a good hard look at me.
You were one of my students, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am. A few years ago.
Oh, good. That means you can help me.
Help you with what exactly? Miss Banks pulls out multiple coupons from her large battered purse.
I want to get this curling iron with these coupons.
I take a look at each coupon. All expired. I can't use these coupons as they are all expired, but you can use your loyalty points to reduce the price. Miss Banks rolled her eyes.
No, I want to use these coupons.
She stomped her foot, slamming it down on her daughter's foot. Her daughter winced at the pain, but her mother paid no mind.
I did so much for you. Help out your poor old teacher.
I sigh. Miss Banks, even if these weren't expired, I would only be able to use one coupon per company policy. Her daughter was like, Mom, let me pay for the curling iron, okay?
No, I don't need people seeing you paying for stuff like this. I'm your mother, and I should pay for it.
She turns back to me.
Now, are you going to help your teacher or no?
I push the button under the counter to signal the manager, and it makes a bright, happy chime through the store. I can do what I stated before and nothing more. If you would give me your loyalty card, I can...
No! I taught you so much, so you owe me at least this much.
My manager comes up to the counter. Is everything okay here?
This girl won't help me and is trying to rip me off. I demand she uses my coupons or else.
Manager proceeds to look at the expired coupons and slides them off the counter into the trash can below. She did her job correctly by not allowing these to go through. Please either use your loyalty points or pay the full price of the curling iron. Miss Banks is very angry at this point. Seeing that she wasn't going to get her way, she stomped down on the floor again, but this time I heard the faintest of cracks. Her daughter is now crying. Her mother stomped down on her foot again and broke one of her toes.
Now look what you made me do. My daughter is hurt because of you.
She points to me. My manager's like, I'm calling the police. Miss Banks freaks out at the mention of police. Guess she's had a run-in with them before. And tries to run out of the store, but her daughter holds onto her arm. She pulls and pulls, but her daughter keeps her in place, still sobbing over the pain. I quickly run to the back room and grab an ice pack we kept in the mini fridge and hand it to her daughter as the police arrive. My manager explains to the police, mall police actually, about what was going on and how we may need an ambulance. Miss Banks is screaming this whole time about how ungrateful I am and that I don't respect my elders. I look her dead in the face and say, how does it feel to be embarrassed like this? To have to sit on your fat butt and be told no? Her eyes widen as she seemed to remember who I actually was. She tries to say something, but instead is dragged off by the police while her daughter iced her broken toe. I haven't seen her since. Next we've got, entitled Father Tries to Take My Drawing Tablet Because His Son is Better at Art. Hey, Mr. Reddit, just in case you read this story happened a few months ago, and watching you just made me remember it. I did paraphrase some of this. Too long didn't read at the bottom. So I do art for fun, and I'm finally getting kinda sorta decent. So a while back, me and my family flew somewhere for some reason, which I can't exactly remember, and we all got split up because we were flying on standby. My mom's a flight attendant. So while I and my dad were waiting to see if we would get on the plane, I was doodling away on my laptop, drawing my sister's Dungeons & Dragons character. My dad stood up to talk to those ladies in front of where you would board and get your ticket scanned, leaving me with our 2 bags and my laptop. Admittedly, I wasn't paying too much attention, but I noticed a boy a little older than me, looked around 15. I was 14 at the time of this story. Our cast. We've got me, the artist. We've got the alright kid. He wasn't too bad, but a little entitled. We've got the entitled dad. And we've got the old savior. Thanks, random old man. All right, kid was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. He began watching me draw while he was plugging up his phone. It's not that great. Thanks. I draw too. That's pretty cool. Admittedly, I wasn't paying attention. I have one headphone in. He watched me for a minute and I kept going. Can I try drawing on your tablet? I assumed he had his own. For the record, this is a cheap tablet. Don't you have one? No. So can I try drawing on yours? Now, any artist knows that their drawing tablet is their baby. And although I'm getting a nice new fancy one with a screen in a month for my birthday, and even though I knew that back then, I didn't trust this random guy. Sorry, I hardly trust my sister with this. It's really hard to use. This is somewhat of a lie, and a lot of people struggle with it, but I picked it up almost immediately. Oh, come on, just for a second, I won't break it. He notices how a part of it is a little scratched up, and the top left part of it is popped up. Besides, you haven't taken much care of it. I look where he's looking before shrugging. I do. I just don't have a case for it, and I was a little careless before. See, if you're careless, I should... I cut him off. How rude of me. No. Now can you go away? All right, kid huffs and begins to do something on his phone. Not even a second later, entitled dad approaches. All right, kid. Is this jerk bothering you? Now I'm somewhat offended. I'm used to being insulted as a joke by family, and I can usually take insults from strangers. But to hear this from a grown man, talking about a kid who looks around 13 or 14, I look young, okay? I asked to use her drawing tablet, but she didn't want to let me. Entitled dad turns and looks at what I was working on. Inconveniently, I had flipped off my art program out of habit when any adult approaches me and looks at my art. My mom does it all the time and always wants to post it. I had a meme drawing on the other page that I honestly found hilarious. Yeah, really? You'd think someone who had a drawing tablet would be good at drawing. Why do you even need it? I was drawing until you came over. At this point in my head, the, oh no, here we go again, meme is playing. What is that even? Peter Griffin with a nose job? It was a purposely bad drawing of Peter Griffin. Yes, it is. Look, if you're gonna be wasting your time on crap like that, you don't even need that tablet. He begins to reach out to grab my drawing tablet, which I quickly slide away. I put the pen down onto this small little indent thing in my laptop, I don't know what to call it, temporarily while I turned in the little chair to deal with him. If you don't leave me alone, I'm going to get the staff's attention. The entitled dad ignores my warning and reaches for it again. I give him a gentle little shove back, but I don't know my own strength, so it was stronger than I meant. All right, kid, all this time, is just watching in silence. How dare you push me, you little jerk! He keeps his voice down, but gets the attention of an older man waiting for the flight as well. He looks a little scruffy, with large eye bags. Listen! He had a weird but cool accent that was a mix of a New Yorker and an Irishman. The heck you think you're doing? Swearing at a freaking kid. You think your son's gonna grow up any better than you? This jerk needs to be taught a lesson. She disrespected me and my son. Besides, she doesn't need her stupid tablet. Her rich parents can just get her a new one. Old Savior looks like he's done with letting him talk. Why can't you? He's literally got Nike Air shoes. He looks to me. How much did your tablet cost? About $120 on average. If you can afford nice, expensive shoes for your son, you can afford to get him a tablet. Entitled Dad seems to be at a loss for words before he splutters out. Wow, my son is way better than she could ever be, so why would she need it? She'd just end up working in fast food. I'm also fairly done with this encounter at this point, so I start to pack up, putting my pen in its little holder in my tablet and closing my laptop. I grabbed my 2 bags and dragged them over next to the old man. My mistake was not taking my laptop. Old Savior continues while I do this. I don't give a crap how talented your son is. It isn't your gosh dang stuff. It's hers. I haven't seen her work, but I'm sure she's great. I smile a little at this and give him a small nod of appreciation. Before entitled dad gets a word out, old savior looks from me back to my laptop and exclaims, "What the heck do you think you're doing?" I look back, and alright kid has evolved from an alright kid to an entitled kid. Yeah, that's right. He's not good anymore. He unplugged the tablet from its USB port and started to hurriedly walk away, but he stops in his tracks. I'm angry. Very angry. So I hurry up to him and snatch it out of his hands. He was somewhat strong, but you don't get between an art kid and her tablet. I begin to walk away back to my laptop as the entitled dad grabs my arm.
Give that to me right now, you little jerk!
I kind of laugh, grab his arm, and try to pry it off my own. He's stronger than me, so I begin to pry his fingers off my arm by sliding my own tiny hand under it. Meanwhile, old savior gets up and grabs his arm, yanking it off. It suddenly becomes clear that this legend, despite his scruffy looks and age, is a boss. Instead of shouting like a normal man, he angrily whispers threats to him. I would relay them here, but he was talking so fast and had so many bad words, it would be a waste of time. Thankfully, this caused entitled dad and entitled kid to back off, going back to wherever they came from. I grab my laptop and sit next to the old man, thanking him and showing him my work. He tells me not to worry about it and asks what I was drawing. I tell him it's a Dungeons & Dragons character, and he remarks how he used to play a long time ago, when 3.5e just came out. We talk about Dungeons & Dragons for a while before he stands up to board with the folks who get to board before the normies. Not even with the elderly. He was in business class. My dad comes back to me, completely unaware of what just happened, and tells me that we aren't going to make it on that flight. I shrug, we pack up, and we begin to head to the next possible flight we could get on. I tell my dad about this on the walk, and his face hardened like he was upset, but we didn't do anything about it. But hey, I did get an expensive Starbucks out of it afterward. Thank you all for reading. If this actually gets read, please send me a link in the comments. To be honest, a small part of me wishes I could have had a longer conversation, since I really liked the characters he told me about, and he was really chill. So, old man, I salute you. Next we've got Entitled Family Tries to Steal My Cat. Hey, you lovely people. I've had quite a few experiences with entitled parents and other people, so here I am to tell you how one time an entitled family tried to steal my cat. This did happen about 10 years ago, but I'll tell as much as I remember. Here's our, some of them not so, lovely cast. Me, OP, a unicorn goddess. We've got Turbo, my adorable cat. We have the entitled kid, entitled dad, and entitled mom. Now, on to the story. I used to live in a pretty small town where everyone knew pretty much everyone, so most of the time it was more than fine to let my two cats wander around outside. Both cats were, and still are, very clingy and often follow me or my mom if they see we were outside too. So we'd always either keep them inside while we went somewhere or make a run for it until the cats would just give up. That day was one of those days where I made a run for it, as Turbo had been following me to the grocery store. After a few minutes, I was on my way back and almost home when I saw a family consisting of entitled kid, entitled dad, and entitled mom standing by Turbo. Entitled kid petting my cat and giggling at how pretty she was, while her parents watched. Now, I don't want to brag, but Turbo is a very pretty cat, and I've gotten tons of compliments on her. Taking a better look, I could see the family wasn't from around. Their car, clothes, and entitled mom's jewelry all looking very expensive, which wasn't something you really saw in my town. Not because people were poor, but nobody was real flashy, and no one wanted to be the first and stick out. Judging from where their car was parked, I think they were there to look at a house for sale. Anyway, I was smiling to myself and feeling proud again that someone liked my cat when suddenly the entitled kid looked at her parents and asked, "Mommy, can we keep him?" To which her mother said,
Sure, sweetie. You've been so good lately. You deserve a pet.
This, of course, gave me a minor heart attack as the entitled mom bent down to pick up Turbo. Luckily, Turbo and I had a little game that whenever I wanted her inside, I would bend down to pick her up, only to have her run a few feet, stop, and wait for me to try again a few times. At that moment, Turbo seemed to think it was playtime, and with a little meow, ran about 3 feet away, stopped, and looked back at entitled mom, challenging her to try again, which she did. This was honestly pretty funny to watch, but when entitled mom called for entitled dad to open the car door and help her get Turbo in it, I decided to step in. I called Turbo's name to get her attention, and seeing me, she ran as fast as her little legs could get to me, meowing loudly the whole time as I gave her a few pets and told her we were going home. This did not sit well with the entitled family, as entitled kid started scream crying, and the parents both looked at me like I was crazy.
What the heck are you doing?
Taking my cat home?
That isn't your cat, you jerk.
Yeah, she is. I've had her for years. Want to see the pics I've got? Apparently, me being a smart aleck was a bad move, as entitled kid dropped to the ground and started screaming even louder as she flopped around.
Kitty! Look what you did. You made entitled kid cry. Just give her that cat already. Some child like you doesn't deserve such a pretty cat anyway. An entitled kid has been behaving wonderful and should be rewarded.
I look at entitled kid who's still throwing a tantrum. You call that good behavior?
Who do you think you are, telling us how to raise our child?
I'm not, but maybe I should.
Give us the cat already.
Nope.
That's it. I'm getting that thing myself.
He started stomping towards me and Turbo, obviously about to try to grab her, but I had enough. So grabbing Turbo, I quickly put her in my bag and zipped it up so only her head was poking out and she couldn't jump out. With that done, I turned back to entitled dad, who had almost reached me and was glaring at my bag, obviously intent on just ripping the whole thing off. Luckily, many years of being bullied had resulted in me developing a mess with me and lose attitude that I decided to use, so I gave him my hardest glare and loudly stomped my foot towards him, actually making him stop walking. Listen, jerk. If you even think of coming near my cat again, I'm ripping off your head, making you eat it, poop it out, and eat it again. Entitled mom let out a dramatic gasp. She must have been shocked that someone actually threatened entitled dad, or maybe just my imagination and language, but whatever. Same goes for you and your fake boobs. Get out of here, now. As they just stood there, frozen with entitled kid having stopped crying, I carefully placed my bag with Turbo in it down, and this time I was the one stomping towards them. Go! That seemed to work, as the entitled parents dragged their mayonnaise stain into the car and drove off with screeching tires. Never before was I so glad to have been a pretty big girl. I grabbed my bag with Turbo in it and started walking home again, but after a few minutes, I swear I saw the same car again with the driver and passenger both looking the other way, so I couldn't see their faces. I figured they might have somehow found me again and were trying to follow me home to steal Turbo some other time, so I decided to walk past my house and just keep walking for at least an hour before I started taking all kinds of paths that were short but where cars couldn't come. After a while, I managed to not only lose them, but to also have them think that Turbo and I lived in a different neighborhood. Still, as soon as I got home, I got my other cat inside, and my mom and I didn't let them out for at least a week in fear those people would somehow show up again. The end. Thank you all very much for reading how I had to heroically rescue my cat from an entitled family. Also, for those of you wondering, here's a pic of her. And our final story of the day, the muffins. Okay, so this one is a bit strange, but just bear with me. So my wife and I live in an apartment complex that's pretty nice. Nothing too expensive or fancy, but it does have a fireplace and a good amount of space. Plus, the maintenance crew are really nice and professional. Like most apartments, when you get a package that's either too large to leave in the tiny cubbies they give for mail or to leave on your doorstep, it's sent to the main office building. It's a good system that prevents theft or lost packages. Now, my wife loves to bake, so one day she was going full blast in the kitchen and ended up making about 4 dozen tiny banana nut muffins. That's a ton, even for two 20-somethings. So being the nice and slightly shy folk we are, we decided to plate up about 25 of the muffins and bring them to the office. We figured it would be a nice gesture of gratitude. When we get to the office, there were the 2 typical employees that knew my wife and I because we almost immediately picked up our packages, and one I didn't recognize. This is our entitled parent. This woman was legitimately a fusion of a typical Karen and Miss Frizzle in a pantsuit. My wife greeted everyone holding the muffins behind her back. The two normal employees both smiled and said hello, while entitled parent just rushed past us without a word. I figured it was her lunch break or something, so I didn't really pay her any mind. After she left, my wife revealed the muffins, much to the office workers' delight. We told them it was for everyone, including the maintenance staff. My wife was wriggling bashfully as everyone talked up her muffins and how cute she was. They all said thank you from then on, and for the next few days everything was normal. But then the fun just stopped. At around 8 a.m. on Sunday, there was a loud banging at my door. My wife was already up, so she answered the door. To her and my surprise, it was entitled parent. Keep in mind, we've never even spoken to this woman. We only know her name from the other office workers. Oh, good morning, Mrs. Entitled Parent. How are you this morning?
Hello. I'm actually really busy today. I was just wondering when you'll be making muffins again.
Well, that was just a one-time thing. But if I end up making more, I'll let you know.
Actually, could you make some today? I really liked them last time and so did my kids. So please be a dear.
Now, my wife isn't exactly what you would call tough. She often caves under pressure or feels guilty when she has to say no. That's where I come in. I have no issue shutting people down who demand more than either of us can do. I got up from the couch and marched over to the door. Actually, Miss Entitled Parent, we're actually about to go out on our weekly date and don't exactly have the time. Sorry about that.
Well, you could always postpone it. My kids and I really liked the muffins. You guys are a little young to be going out like this. Think of this as a chance to do something actually nice for someone else, rather than indulging in each other.
At this point, I'm done. I said no. My wife tried to say no, so that's the end of it. Sorry, we don't have time. We'll try to later. Have a nice day. I said that as quickly as possible to shut the door. Over the next few weeks, we had a few maintenance issues that we submitted requests for. Nothing major, just changing the weather strip and a door that was sticking. After 0 responses from the office or maintenance staff, I went to see what's up. Turns out, Entitled Parent wanted us to make muffins so bad that she denied or just ignored all the requests we sent in. Not only that, but we saw a dramatic spike in our rent the following month, about a $90 increase, that she said was a
one-time mistake,
and
we should just pay because the paperwork isn't worth the trouble.
Eventually, we were done. We gathered all the paperwork and denied requests we could and marched straight to the office. The complex owner was there that day, and we knew he wouldn't be back for another month. As soon as Entitled Parent saw me and my wife with a fat stack of paper, she froze like a deer in headlights. We made our way to the owner and explained our situation. He is stunned over the fact that his employee, who was already on thin ice for something similar, would be so petty. The owner told us that next month's rent would be on him and maintenance should come by as soon as possible. The Entitled Parent glared at us as we left the office. I found out later that she was fired and sent to court for fraud. Turns out she was pulling similar problems with 5 other tenants, raising their rent only to keep the extra money off the books. Man, to think this all started because of some muffins. If this ends up on Reddit, Mr. Reddit is a chill dude. Aw, thanks, Bad Bear. You guys sound pretty chill too.
Drop a re in the comments, or I'm going to make you make muffins for me and my kids.
And congrats to our re-generals of the day, Nico Nightwolf, Insane Destruction, Ravecoin, and Mindmaster30. That's all for now, but don't be blue. I'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Reddit every night, so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright.